Discover the sinister rules of my haunted Wyoming town, 10 spine-chilling secrets revealed. Claire could hardly breathe. Standing in the shadows of her new backyard, the Wyoming air felt heavy, almost suffocating. The picturesque homes around her, all quaint white fences and sunny blooms, concealed an unsettling truth that whispered through the winds. She had come here to escape her past, but it seemed that every bit of this fairy tale town bore the marks of something sinister lurking just beneath the surface. It's just the wind, she told herself when shadows flickered just beyond her line of sight, but the hairs on the back of her neck prickled with unease. As days stretched into weeks, laughter echoed through the sun-drenched streets during weekend barbecues, families bonding over sizzling hot dogs and sweet lemonade. Yet, an unshakable tension resided in her gut. It started with low whispers echoing among her children's new friends, secrets exchanged in hushed tones. She couldn't decipher their words, but their intense excitement hinted at something deeply wrong. Bizarre symbols began to materialize on her porch, traced in what appeared to be ash one morning. She brushed them off, attributing the spookiness to local ghost stories meant to thrill tourists. But her heart raced at the whispers that flickered behind her like a distant storm. Whispers about the town's haunted past began to adorn the neighbors' conversations. Claire learned about the long history of tragedy and failure, the stories woven from economic despair. Families once filled with hope now stood ghostly shells of what they had been. But it was the mention of 10 unwritten yet universally adhered to rules that unnerved her most. Rules spoken in silence, never to be uttered aloud yet followed to the letter as if they were the town's lifeline. She watched, helpless, as her children began to draw strange marks in the dirt, their laughter tinged with a note she couldn't recognize, a dark curiosity that sent shivers down her spine. "What's the game you all are playing?" she asked one evening, her voice strained as they darted around like fireflies, joy turning quickly into a tight-lipped silence. Their eyes sparkled with secrets that could shatter everything she held dear. Time whisked by, her growing dread tightening its grip each day. Mr. Thompson, her friendly neighbor with smiles that didn't quite reach his eyes, often stopped by to lend a helping hand. Yet, even as he offered kindness, Claire felt an unsettling weight in his presence, something hidden beneath layers of cordiality. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days stretched infinitely, shadows creeping deeper into her life. Then came a night, quiet and still, when a loud crash echoed from the backyard, a crash that should not have been. Heart pounding, Claire stumbled outside to find her children huddled, eyes wide, staring at a new mark, the unmistakable outline of one of the sinister symbols etched into the ground before them. Tears pricked at her eyes. Fear suffused her heart, knowing full well she had crossed lines drawn in silence. Faint laughter floated through the air, almost mocking her as darkness enveloped them. Claire stood frozen, a question pounding in her mind: how far will she go to protect her children from the darkness lurking just beyond their innocent joy? In that moment, within the heart of a town thriving under hidden rules, she felt the weight of her choices bearing down. The specter of fear flickered, foretelling danger around every corner, and she might just be racing against time to protect her family before they became part of the town's dreadful legacy. Claire's heart raced as she crouched beside her children. They were always so carefree, but now, their innocent faces reflected terror too profound for their ages. The symbols on the ground glowed faintly in the moonlight, as if whispering secrets only the night could understand. She felt an intense pressure in her chest, knowing that whatever had taken root in this town was beginning to unfurl its dark tendrils around her family. "What happened?" she whispered, her voice quaking as she scanned the backyard for any sign of danger. The wind sighed across the grass, carrying teasing snippets of laughter. Was it real, or just a trick of her mind? One of her children, a brave little girl named Emily, pointed at the ground. "We were playing, Mom. The boys said we had to draw a circle. They said it's part of the game." Her excitement felt wrong in the shadow of dread looming over them. "Which boys?" Claire asked, her voice tightening. "The ones with the cool bikes," said Nathan, his eyes flitting nervously, "but they said we have to keep it secret and don't tell anyone." Panic surged within Claire as tendrils of intuition warned her to dig deeper. "This is not a game," she urged. "You can't keep secrets like this. You must tell me everything." But just as the words left her mouth, a cold laugh echoed through the air, chilling her spine. The laughter swirled around them, thin and serpentine, drifting through the night like smoke. It danced among the trees, somehow mocking her attempts to protect her children. A movement caught her eye, and she turned sharply to find Mr. Thompson standing just beyond the yard, his face half hidden in the darkness, a knowing smile plastered on his lips. "Don't worry about them, Claire. Kids will be kids, right?" His voice held a sickly sweetness, like biting into a piece of rotten fruit. There was something predatory lurking beneath, and Claire's instinct screamed at her. She forced a smile, masking her anxiety. "Thanks, but they need to come inside now." "Ah, but how can they resist such fun?" he replied, stepping closer. Each movement felt predatory, calculated. In that moment, Claire felt the gravity of the town's rules weaving tighter around her, choking her resolve. Suddenly, the shadows deepened around them. The air thickened, becoming inexplicably electric. "You should let them play, it's what the town expects," Mr. Thompson whispered, his voice dropping to an intimate tone that felt unearthly. Claire felt a weight settling into her bones, a certainty that he knew far more than he should. She stepped back, pulling her children with her, and the sound of their hearts pounding filled her ears. The backyard felt alive, breathing softly, as though the very ground had turned against them. Each step she took was heavier. The cymbals seemed to writhe as she turned her back on them. "Mom, wait!" Emily cried, pulling at her sleeve. "The boys said if we draw the other symbols, we can make a wish." "A wish?" The thought sent chills spiraling down her spine. Claire knew what kind of wishes this town granted, ones that often came with a terrible price. With grim determination, she ushered her children inside, shutting the door against the night. The laughter lingered outside, clinging to the glass, muffled yet insistent. The oppressive air within the house felt no safer, almost at odds with the cheerful decor that decorated their new home. As she turned to face her children, their faces were drawn and pale, mirroring her own fears. "We'll talk about what happened tomorrow," she said, a shaky resolve threading through her words. They nodded, but she could see the fear hidden in their eyes, shadows of knowledge too dark for their innocent hearts. Checking the locks, Claire felt as if the house was slowly becoming a cage. But deep inside her, a voice murmured that she couldn't just sit idly by. The darkness was out there, and it was only waiting for the perfect moment to strike. What would she discover if she dared to unearth the town's hidden rules? As a gust rattled the windows, Claire realized that the answers could be even more terrifying than the questions, and she would have to unravel the truth before time ran out. But what if she wasn't the only one watching? The shadows outside pressed closer, hungry for the light. The walls felt like they were closing in on Claire as she paced the small living room. The air hung heavy, bulging with unspoken fears and haunted memories from the town beyond their doors. She glanced at the clock. Midnight. A time of ghosts and whispers, when the town truly came alive in its most sinister forms. A quick glance at her children, still trembling on the couch, sent another wave of dread rippling through her. "Mom." Emily's soft voice broke the silence, so small and scared that Claire felt her heart tighten. "What if the boys come back?" Claire swallowed hard. "They won tea. They're not allowed here." She hoped her words were enough to chase away the storm brewing in her daughter's eyes. But deep down, Claire knew better. She could hear the laughter still lingering outside, an echo of the scene that had unfolded moments ago. Was it real? Or just the town's way of playing tricks on them? I should have never let you play that game, she muttered, her own voice laced with regret. That circle, those symbols, it was the town's curse. She had to understand it. For her children's sake. Claire moved towards the window, her hand trembling as she pulled back the curtain slightly. The streetlights cast an eerie glow over the yard, illuminating the faint outline of the symbols that had only moments ago led them into darkness. A shiver coursed through her body at the sight. Suddenly, the laughter erupted again, louder this time, ringing through the air like a bell tolling for the damned. It sent a chill up her spine. She backed away from the window, her heartbeat racing, as shadows danced beyond the glass. "Mom, I'm scared," Nathan whimpered, clutching his sister's arm. They leaned into each other, seeking comfort in the bonds of innocence that felt increasingly fragile. "Let us go upstairs," Claire said, pulling her children closer. "We'll be safer there." They climbed the staircase, each creak beneath their feet seeming to protest their movement. Claire led them to her bedroom, closing the door with as much force as she could gather, pressing her ear against it as she listened intently to the world beyond. The laughter had faded, replaced by a low murmuring, slow, rhythmic, and sinister, as if the night itself was gossiping about her. Claire's mind raced. She couldn't shake the notion that the town's darkness was entrapping them. She needed to find answers, but to do that, she'd have to venture into the maze of secrets and shadows lurking in the town. "Mom?" Emily's voice quivered, breaking through Claire's thoughts. "Are we going to be okay?" Claire knelt in front of her, meeting her gaze with all the strength she could muster. "We're going to be just fine. But I need you both to promise me something." "What?" they said in unison, their eyes wide with concern. "Promise me you won't tell anyone about what happened tonight." "Not until I figure out what's going on." They nodded, but Claire could see the fear lurking in their innocent eyes. Her promise felt more like a chain than a pledge of safety. Suddenly, a sharp knocking echoed through the house, the sound piercing the eerie stillness. It rattled her bones and set her nerves ablaze. Someone was at the door. Their eyes met, the children's panic spilling over as Claire strained to listen for anything beyond the sound of her own heartbeat. The knock came again, louder this time, demanding. "Who is it?" she called out, her voice betraying her fear. No answer, only a whisper of wind that seemed to mock her. She stole a glance at Nathan's face, his small body flashing with fear. The world outside felt alive, waiting. Waiting for something to awaken. With resolve pooling in her stomach, Claire moved closer to the door, a bead of sweat trickling down her back. She needed to confront whatever lay behind it, whatever secret the town had in store. But when she turned the knob, the door swung inward with a slow creep. The darkness outside engulfed her. What awaited her in that black abyss? Would the answers bring salvation or devastation? Claire's heart raced as the door swung open. The darkness outside felt almost alive, breathing in sync with her own panic. Empty porch steps stretched out before her, shadows mingled with the moonlight, morphing into grotesque shapes. "Hello?" she called, voice shaking. Only silence responded, thick and suffocating. Her breath quickened as she leaned into the blackness, straining to see beyond. Then, from the corner of her eye, a fleeting movement. A flash of white disappeared behind the tree in their yard, making her jump. "Stay here," she hissed to Emily and Nathan. She knew she shouldn't go out there. But fear of the unknown urged her forward. What if it was just a trick of the town? What if it was something worse? She took a cautious step onto the porch, wooden planks creaking beneath her feet like whispers of long-forgotten stories. The night air chilled her skin, carrying with it a scent sweet yet rotten, like decay mixed with something floral. Claire paused, her instincts flaring. Just then, a voice, faint but unmistakable, called out from the dark. "Michelle." It was a name she didn't recognize, yet it echoed through her mind. How did someone outside know her? Panic gripped her, and she stumbled back against the doorframe. "Who's there?" Claire shouted, her words breaking the unnatural silence. Laughter erupted again, bright against the night but twisted and cruel. She turned sharply, glancing at her children, who watched her wide-eyed from inside. "Mom!" Emily cried, a mix of fear and confusion etching her features. "Come back inside." Claire urged, but something in the air kept her rooted at the threshold. It was as if the darkness was luring her in with whispered promises of secrets. Then, the laughter faded into a low hum, rhythmic and hypnotic, surrounding her. It felt like a song, the town's song. Claire shook her head, forcing herself to think clearly. She stepped back, almost ready to retreat, when a figure emerged from the shadows, blurry at first but then sharpening into focus. "Help us," the figure rasped, a young girl, her face pale and eyes wide with terror. Streaks of dirt smeared across her cheeks, and her clothes were tattered. "They won't let us leave." "Who? What do you mean?" Claire's voice trembled, a conflicting sense of dread and curiosity pushing her closer. "They're coming back. They want you." The girl's voice echoed like a warning bell. Just as Claire reached for her, the darkness thickened, coiling around the girl. A ghastly, unnatural wind swept through, forcing Claire to shield her eyes. "No! Wait!" she cried, but the girl dissolved into thin air, leaving only the haunting echo of her plea. The shadows seemed to dance around Claire's feet, taunting her with an intimacy she couldn't shake. Heart pounding, she stumbled back inside, slamming the door shut behind her. "What was that?" Nathan asked, his voice small and fragile, inching closer to Emily. I don't know," Claire said, trying to catch her breath. But a sense that something vile lurked outside now seeped into her bones. She glanced out the window again, but nothing stirred outside now, just an empty street that promised horror. A shadow flickered across her vision, something slithering just beyond sight. "Mom, please," Emily whispered, clutching at Claire's shirt, the words laced with innocence, yet full of terror. "What are we going to do?" "I need to figure this out," Claire whispered back, steeling herself. "We can't just hide." As the children huddled closer, Claire's resolve strengthened. Whatever this town was hiding had become a part of their lives. She wouldn't let it control them. "Tomorrow, we'll find out what happened to that girl," Claire said, though the words felt heavy with uncertainty. "And we'll go to the old church. That's where it all began." But as she turned toward the window one last time, she froze. An outline stood in the distance, half hidden behind the trees, a shadow watching. Was it her imagination? Or were more secrets about to unearth themselves? What was this town waiting for? As dawn crept over the horizon, the first rays of sunlight sliced through the darkness, but Claire felt no relief. The night had clung to her as if its strangling grip had seeped into her very soul. Lying in bed, the shadowy figure lingered in her mind, refusing to let her find even a moment's peace. The echo of the girl's warning rang in her ears, a grim reminder that something far more sinister awaited them. "Mom?" Emily's soft voice broke Claire's uneasy thoughts. The children stood at the door, faces drawn and tired. "Are we really going to the church?" Claire nodded, her heart fluttering with uncertainty. "We are. We need to know what's happening." She forced a reassuring smile, though inside, fear twisted into knots. After a hasty breakfast, they donned their jackets. The air outside was still heavy from the night, burdened by whispers of secrets kept too long. The town lay before them, quiet but tense. Claire led the way, every creak of the wooden porch beneath them sounding like a countdown to impending doom. As they approached the church, a Gothic structure, its once white paint was now peeling, a vibrant reminder of the town's decay. Its tower loomed over them, sharp and foreboding. A chill crept up Claire's spine, and she could feel the children pressing tighter against her. "Are you sure about this?" Nathan asked, looking back at the street as if expecting the shadows to follow. Yeah, it feels wrong, Emily added, her voice shaky. Claire glanced at them, stealing her resolve. We need to understand what's happening. That girl, she was trying to warn us. The church door creaked open with reluctant slowness, the darkness inside yawning wide as if to swallow them whole. Dust motes danced in the stale air, and the musty odor of long-forgotten prayers hung heavy. With hesitant steps, they edged forward into the gloom. The sunlight barely penetrated the stained glass windows, leaving splashes of muted color that felt more like the blood of sacrifices than art. Suddenly, from the corner of the nave, an old wooden pulpit loomed, its surface marred with deep scratches. In an instant, the atmosphere shifted, electricity dancing on Claire's skin. A shiver of recognition filled her. This place felt like a prison. "Mom, look!" Nathan cried, pointing. A series of symbols etched into the wall captured her attention. They twisted and writhed like serpents, ancient runes that felt alive. The air thickened. "What does it say?" Emily asked, stepping closer, her curiosity piqued despite her fear. I don't know," Claire murmured, her heart pounding. "But it feels important." As Claire traced her fingers along the markings, a doorway slid open at the back of the church, a stairwell leading down into darkness. A cold, musty breath wafted up, chilling her to the bone. "Should we go down?" Nathan's voice quivered with anxiety. Maybe there's something down there," Claire stammered, unease shifting in her chest like a coiling snake. A flicker of movement washed over the walls, and shadows began to stretch toward her. They danced and coalesced, forming vague figures whispering her name. "Claire! Claire!" The haunting voice echoed around her, sounding like the girl from the night before. "Mom, please!" Emily clung to Claire's side, eyes wide in terror, as dread dripped from the shadows like venom. For a moment, an overwhelming urge to flee surged through Claire, but something deep inside urged her onwards. "We have to see what's down there," she said, though her voice shook. The pull was too strong. They needed answers. Collecting her breath and gathering her bravery, Claire stepped toward the stairway. "Just stay close," she whispered to her children, gripping their hands tightly as they descended into the unknown. The further down they went, the colder it became. A darkness enveloped them, palpable and foreboding, as the last remnants of light fled. Then they heard it, a low, haunting melody rising from the depths, a song drowned in despair that beckoned to them like a siren's call. "What is that?" Nathan whispered. "I don't know." Claire's voice trembled, picked up by the darkness. But a new voice broke through, louder than the rest. "They want to let you leave." Claire's heart dropped, a premonition clawing at her with icy fingers. What was waiting just beyond the shadows? And how far would they have to go into the darkness to escape? The descent seemed endless, the air thickening with each creaking step they took down the aged wooden stairs. Claire's heart raced, each beat a drum echoing in the oppressive quiet. The haunting melody wrapped around them, growing louder, more insistent. It was a tantalizing lullaby, urging them deeper. "What if we don't find anything?" Nathan's voice trembled again, the whisper a soft flutter in the darkness. "Then we go back," Claire promised, though the weight of uncertainty hung heavy on her shoulders. Each footfall felt like a betrayal against her instinct to flee. As they reached the last step, the world opened up before them, an underground chamber, vast and cavernous, illuminated by flickering torches that seemed to sputter merely with presence rather than flame. Shadows danced along the rough stone walls, and the melody became clearer, a melancholic chorus of female voices resonating in harmony, weaving through the very air they breathed. Claire, the whisper returned, more urgent now, emerging from the depths of the shadows. In the center of the room, they saw it, a shallow stone basin, filled with something dark and shimmering. Claire edged closer, her pulse quickening with dread. The basin looked ancient, carved with the same serpentine symbols from above, pulsating as if alive. "What is that?" Emily breathed, stepping closer, despite Claire's instinct to pull her back. Before Claire could answer, an overwhelming sense of dread flashed through her. It wasn't just a feeling, it was an electric charge in the air. The candlelight flickered violently as a figure emerged from the shadows, a woman, draped in dark fabric, her face obscured by a black veil. "Welcome, seekers of truth," the voice was soft yet chilling. It sent a shiver down Claire's spine, resonating like a funeral bell. "Who are you?" Claire managed to croak, clutching the children closer, their small hands trembling in her grip. "I am the keeper," the figure replied, voice echoing as if summoned from the stones themselves. "You seek answers, but know this, knowledge comes at a price." "Price?" Nathan echoed, fear lacing his tone. "Yes," the keeper continued, gliding closer, her presence suffocating. "To learn the truth of your town, you must offer something in return." "Something precious?" Your fears. Claire's stomach dropped. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, to flee from this crumbling temple of doom. The chant swelled, echoing louder, drumming in her ears like the wails of the damned. Mom Emily's voice trembled, and Claire felt her daughter's grip tighten. The shadows shifted again, swirling around the keeper. "Reveal your deepest fear to the abyss, and you will uncover the secrets buried beneath your town's soul. But reject the offer." She paused, her voice dripping with menace, "and the darkness will consume you all." "What happens if we refuse?" Claire asked, breathing hard, unsure if she was more afraid of the keeper or the truth she thought she sought. "Then you will never leave," the keeper smiled, but it was no friendly smile. It held secrets of ages past, burdens too heavy to bear. The melody intensified, weaving through Claire's mind, wrapping around her thoughts like a noose. "Mom! We can't stay here." Nathan's eyes were wide with horror now, desperation surged through Claire. "What do we do?" "Make your choice, seekers," the keeper urged, taking a step back as the shadows swirled, coiling around her like snakes ready to strike. The chamber held its breath. In that moment of dread, Claire had to decide, would they dare to confront their fears for the sake of revelation? Or would they choose flight, risking total entrapment in this nightmare? The walls seemed to breathe around them, the darkness alive, hungry for their decision. "What is our fear?" Emily whispered, a tear stark against her pale face, and before Claire could answer, a chilling energy enveloped them, whispering their names. They stood on the precipice, about to plunge into the unknown. What lies in the depths of their own fears? And what truths must be sacrificed to escape? Claire's breath hitched in her throat as the thick silence wove around them, heavy and pregnant with unseen terrors. The keeper's veil fluttered slightly, and just for a moment, Claire thought she saw a flicker of something, malice or sadness, she couldn't tell. Mom Nathan's voice cut through the dense air, a whimper of desperation that pulled her back to reality. "I don't want to do this." "I know," she murmured, denying the clamoring fear in her gut, refusing to show her children any more weakness. "But we can't leave. We need to know something." Heart racing, Claire recalled the dark whispers they had heard, the nightmares that had plagued their town. What happened to all those people? She thought, feeling the weight of the countless stories clawing at her mind. What if they were the next victims of this curse? "Make your choice," the keeper commanded again, her voice a siren song that echoed in the chamber. "I fear losing my family." Claire shouted into the void, her words bursting forth like floodwaters. "I fear the unknown. I fear the darkness." The chamber responded with a low, rumbling growl, and the shadows writhed, almost like they were alive, swirling above the basin. Then the keeper stepped forward, her shape shifting toward Claire, almost serpentine. "You must do better, seeker. Speak the truth of your heart. Or the darkness will claim your children." "Mom, please don't," Emily pleaded, her voice trembling. "No. You have to listen. I can't let this happen." Claire shouted, panic clawing at the edges of her sanity. She had to protect them. But the price weighed heavily on her conscience. The fear clung to her throat like a noose. She took a step back, heart pounding. Join the chorus that consumes the weak, the keeper said softly, each word laced with an impenetrable allure. Or speak your heart so we may lift the veil. What if it's worse? Nathan's eyes were wide, reflecting the flickering torchlight with innocence and terror mixed in an intoxicating blend. What if we find out something terrible? Then we know, Claire insisted, gripping her children's hands tighter. We can't be scared of what we already fear. I can't let fear drown me or you. No more running. Bolstered by determination, she took a deep breath, filling her lungs with the charged air as if it would bolster her strength. I fear failure. I fear what lies beneath the surface. I fear what's been hidden. With each confession, the shadows surged. The keeper leaned closer, her veil swirling, eyes glowing beneath the fabric, as if they could see each layer of Claire's soul. The darkness surged, like it was listening. Bring forth your sacrifice, she intoned, her voice now almost celebratory. Speak the name of the fear you hold closest. Fear of losing them. Claire shouted instantly, feeling her heart crack open, that potent fear flooding through her. I've lost so much already. No more. The candlelight flickered violently, the shadows around the keeper thickening. Now, whispers twist into song, the names of both the lost, the real and the imagined. Speak them to the abyss, or never leave. Claire felt the abyss staring back at her, deep and dark, drawing closer. There was no turning back now, not when her children's lives hung in the balance. Mom, please don't, Emily cried out again, terror rising in her voice as the walls began to pulse ominously, the darkness coiled like predators preparing to strike, and Claire's voice trembled. What happens if we do? Only the lost will reveal their truths, the keeper cooed, but once they awake, the hunt will begin, and in that moment, Claire realized there was something far worse than their fears. What they might awaken. In the depths of that blackness, could her darkest fears be transformed into something tangible? Would they all pay the price? The shadows expanded with Claire's words, twisting into grotesque shapes that danced mockingly around her. The keeper's veil seemed to absorb the darkness, becoming a gateway into something much more sinister. Fear, a guttural voice echoed, merging with the rhythmic pulsing of the walls. Name it, Claire. Speak the names of what you fear, or silence will claim you. Claire's heart raced. Each thump against her ribcage felt like a countdown towards doom. Their very lives hinged on her next move, the keeper's expectant gaze piercing through her like icy daggers. Emily trembled beside her, clutching Nathan tightly. Mom, please. Don't make us do this. Stay close, Claire whispered, swallowing hard. She was the anchor, the protector in this swirling nightmare. We have to face this together, I promise. But how could she ensure her children's safety when terror wrapped around them like a suffocating fog? Claire's voice quivered as her mind grasped for anything but the restlessness of the void. Samuel. Rebecca. Alice, she stammered, fear taking physical form with each name. The shadows responded with a violent shudder, flickering like flames caught in a tempest. Keep going, the keeper urged, her lips curling into a cruel smile. The more you confess, the more you will understand. What do you want from us? Nathan cried out, his small frame vibrating with the weight of dread. Claire turned to him, determination burning in her eyes. To understand the truth. We can't stay in the dark. A growl rumbled in response, and the shadows stretched further, creeping forward, hungry. They twisted, reflecting faces of anguish. Friends, family, each person who had disappeared under the town's sinister guise flashed before her mind. In a wave of resolve, Claire spoke the names aloud. Lily, Derek, those who were taken. Each utterance tore through her like wild thorns, but she pressed on through the agony, desperate for answers. The keeper's form shifted, becoming something almost familiar, the face of a lost friend, etched with both horror and hope. Are they lost? Claire whispered, her heart aching. Or will they come to claim their due? Yes, the keeper confirmed, eyes gleaming. Once awakened, they return with a hunger one that cannot be sated. The air grew thick, nearly suffocating, as Claire felt the shadows encroaching faster. Claire had conjured memories, and now those forgotten souls were listening, growing restless. "What do you seek?" she dared to ask, fear coiling tightly in her belly. "A reckoning," the keeper replied, every word a sinister promise. "And your family will pay." A violent crack pierced through the tension as the walls splintered with an unnatural force. Dust and debris rained down, illuminating a tableau of despair trapped within the darkness. Claire's breath quickened, panic threatening to overtake her feeble courage. "Mom! Make it stop!" Nathan sobbed. "Listen, I can." Claire gripped her children, but shivering fingers slipped from her grasp as the floor twisted beneath them. Dark tendrils snaked toward Nathan, wrapping around his ankles like sinister vines. "Emily! Hold on to me!" Claire shouted, pulling her daughter closer, everything blurred into chaos. The shadows lunged, hissed, and recoiled as they sensed her desperation. Claire could feel her own strength failing, but she knew she had to press deeper into the abyss. "Stop! We will not be your sacrifice!" she screamed, her voice breaking through the tempest, but the keeper only laughed, the sound echoing like broken glass. "You are bound by the choices you make. Now face the truth or become part of the darkness." The darkness paused before lunging ferociously, shadows grasping, clutching at every fragile thread of hope. One final push. "Wake up! Wake up!" Claire howled, fighting against both fear and futility. The keeper's eyes gleamed with anticipation. So it begins. In that moment, Claire had no idea of the horrors her words had unleashed. But one thing was certain: what came next would shake the very foundation of their reality. Would they escape the darkness, or would the awakened souls drag them into an eternal night? The darkness erupted, swirling and writhing like a living entity. Claire felt the weight of the air pressing down, making it hard to breathe, as if the shadows themselves were trying to crush her spirit. She clutched Emily tightly, her daughter's small frame trembling against her. Nathan was still struggling against the tendrils gripping his legs, panic rising in his eyes. "Mom, help me!" he cried, desperation lacing his voice. Claire could feel her resolve starting to buckle. "Hold on, Nathan. I want to let them take you." With a surge of adrenaline, she lunged forward, trying to wrench him free from the dark vines. Each movement was met with resistance, and the shadows hissed with indignation, as if they were alive and aware of her every attempt to fight back. They wrapped tighter, the cold grip sending icy tendrils of terror through her veins. "Speak more names," the keeper insisted, her voice a slithering whisper that seemed to crawl into Claire's mind, digging deep into her most intimate fears. "They hunger for memories, for justice, for blood." Claire pressed on, drawing from the deep well of sorrow that kept surfacing. Thomas, Grace, Martin. Each name felt like a dagger in her chest. But as she spoke, the shadows recoiled, flickering as if the mention of each name wielded power over them. It was a desperate form of fuel, igniting a flicker of hope in the darkness. "Mom, please!" Emily cried, the fear echoed in her wide eyes. "What are we doing?" "We're fighting," Claire shouted, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "We have to keep fighting until the last ounce of strength is gone." The keeper's laughter filled the room, a melody laced with malice. "So brave, but do you not see? The more you name, the more they will thirst, and you are merely feeding their hunger. Your family is but a banquet before them." Claire felt the hair on the back of her neck stand on end. The shadows writhed, shifting into something more grotesque. Faces began to form within the darkness, anguished, pleading, angry, each one a fragment of those they had lost. "Why have you forsaken us?" they seemed to scream. "You called us back." "No!" Claire shouted, her mind swirling with accusations. "I didn't mean to," but the keeper stepped forward, wrapping the shadows around her like a cloak, her grin widening dangerously. You awakened them with your fear, Claire. That is the price. Now, you will protect us or join them. The shadows surged, drawn to her desperation. She felt their pull, an inescapable vortex of grief and loss. No. I have to protect my children. The words spilled from her lips like an invocation. With a new determination, Claire fought back against the encroaching darkness. I choose love. I choose to protect them no matter what. She declared, vocalizing a power she didn't fully understand. Her words, a blinding light rippled through the chamber. Shadows recoiled, releasing Nathan from their grasp. He tumbled to the floor, gasping for breath. Emily followed, her frightened eyes locked on Claire. What is happening? Emily whispered, barely audible above the chaos. The atmosphere shifted, the keeper's expression warping into a mask of rage. You dare defy what you have summoned? This is your reckoning. The ground shook violently, and Claire steadied herself, heart pounding like thunder. Cracks began to spider across the surface, light spilling between them. She felt the weight of all those who had suffered under the shadow's grip, their pain coursing through her veins, reinforcing her resolve. This isn't over, Claire. You cannot escape what you have brought forth. The keeper screeched, her form blurring as the shadows began to retract like a tide pulled out. Nathan. Emily. Follow me. Claire shouted, ushering her children toward the glowing fissures in the floor. They raced forward, hope igniting like a flame, pushing back against the creeping dread that sought to consume them once again, but just as they reached the light, Claire felt a tug, an ancient force pulling at her, threatening to drag her back down into the depths of despair. Mom! Nathan's voice cut through the chaos, filled with terror. The fissures closed as she turned, glimpsing the keeper reaching out, rage twisting her features. The darkness wasn't done, not by a long shot. Now you all will pay, the keeper roared, the shadows coiling around her like serpents. Claire's heart sank even deeper. What had they awakened, truly? Was there any way out, or would they plunge back into the darkness from which they momentarily escaped? As the shadows lunged once more, tearing the space around them, she could feel the end looming, threatening her and her family with an unspeakable fate. Was this the fight of their lives or merely the beginning of their descent into eternal night? The chaos roared around Claire, her heart pounding in rhythm with the horrifying visions pulsing through the air. Everything spun shadows, voices until they converged into a single reality. Mom! Nathan screamed, his small figure nearly lost in the swirling darkness. Claire's insides twisted with fear, she couldn't afford to lose them. Not now. Hold on. She shouted, urging her children closer. The fissures were glowing now, pulsating with an ethereal light, begging to be entered, promising safety from the clutches of that sinister keeper. With every fiber of her being, Claire knew they had to leap into that chaotic light, but the darkness recoiled, tightening around her ankles like iron chains. Let them go. She shouted, forcing her voice through the tightening grip of despair. I want to let you take them. The shadow was alive, swirling with a malevolent energy. But then, something shifted in her chest, a soft warmth ignited with her fury. She had survived, hoped, and loved deeply. It was time to root that strength in the storm of terror. As keen clarity gushed through her, she clutched her children's hands tightly, grounding them in the light spreading beneath her. Listen to me. She screamed over the escalating wails. You are stronger than this darkness. We are stronger. Just then, a wave of sorrow mixed with defiance surged through her. I want to let fear control us. I choose hope. Claire shouted, grounding her declaration in the very essence of her love for her children. As she spoke those words, the shadows hesitated. She could feel the pull of the darkness ebbing, if only for a moment. The keeper's figure twisted and warped, her rage boiling over in echoes that threatened to shatter the very walls around them. You defy us? You will pay dearly. The words trailed off into screams as Claire felt the fissures growing wider, the light swollen with bright clarity. It was their chance. We have to go now, she urged, her voice breaking with urgency. Gripping her children tighter, she summoned every ounce of strength and launched herself toward the bright opening, fear falling away like leaves in autumn. With one fierce leap, they plunged into the abyss of glowing light. They landed, rolling across soft grass, faces painted with a foreign brilliance. Claire's heart pounded as she pushed herself up, scanning around. The shadows had vanished, along with the suffocating weight that had pressed down upon them. Sunlight bathed the town in warmth, the air fragrant with blooming roses. Claire's breath hitched. It was the same street, the same neighbors, but everything felt different. The symbolic dark marks that had marred their home blurred into the fading past. No more were there whispers of unseen horrors. Clutching her children, Claire's tears flowed freely, relief flooding her being. We made it, she gasped, hugging them close. We're safe. Mom. Emily's voice sparkled with delight, the innocence returning to her eyes. Nathan buried his head against Claire's shoulder, drawing comfort from the familiar scent that had shielded him from the nightmares. They stood there for a moment, joy illuminating their newfound freedom. It was short-lived, as Claire's mind raced back to the keeper, the lost souls. They couldn't forget, couldn't allow the darkness to take another child from the town, or another family from their own home. No more, she vowed, determination anchoring her soul. We'll help them face what lies beneath. We'll make sure they can leave this darkness behind. Can we touch the ground? Emily asked, eyes bright with wonder. Claire nodded, pride swelling in her chest. We will show them love, hope, what it means to fight. Hand in hand, they moved inside their house, the air filled with sunlight now, cheerfulness draping over the memories that once haunted it. They would change the narrative, not just for themselves, but for all those shadows that had once lingered. Suddenly, Claire turned and glanced back at the horizon, where the church stood. It felt like a challenge she was ready to meet, a promise to those who had been silenced. We'll always stand together, she whispered, glancing at her brave children. Nothing will take that from us again. As they stepped back through the door, a sense washed over them, a new beginning. Because together, they wouldn't just face the darkness, they would light up the world with truths long hidden beneath. And as dawn lingered, waking the town anew, a ripple of hope began to unfurl, mingling with the sunlight, a silent vow whispered on the wind. A transformation was just beginning. If you felt the thrill of this conclusion, you need to subscribe now. You don't want to miss out on the next exclusive stories waiting to unravel. Smash that like button now to help us feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and feel the power of hope. Your support makes all the difference.